Welcome. You have found the Quarenta Podcast. 40 minutes of chat around music and Finland. For today, we have Adriano Adewale. He's a Brazilian-born musician that has quite a story of self-discovery. He has traveled to Africa, lived, studied and worked in the UK, and is now teaching at the Sibelius Academy here in Helsinki. He is also conducting a doctoral research on the Brazilian Berimbau, a mesmerizing musical instrument that defies conventions. He is exploring the limits of the instrument in a very particular way. Let's just say that Adriano is walking the same path as other important 20th century artists. Less is more, they have claimed. Well, he wants to know why. If you suddenly become interested on how the Berimbau could help him find out more about music, then stick around. This is Adriano Adewale. Can we say?
Cheers.
Good start.
Good start.
Sharing with water.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
we have the coffee too.
Quite noisy. So, first of all, thank you for so much. It's really a pleasure and thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk. I know that you are a busy man.
Yeah. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
We had brief conversations, but for the most part, I don't know much about you. I know that you're a percussionist. I know that you're doing a doctoral at the Sibelius Academy, and I know that you were born in Brazil, São Paulo.
That's right.
And you have to tell me how the whole musical adventure, you were born in a very musical place,
Yeah.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
Brazil, but then how did it all happen? When did you felt, okay, this is what I want to do?
When did I decide to
Yeah.
become a musician?
Yeah. And was it late in your life, or just, what's the first instrument you played, and when did you start making music?
Well, the story goes back quite a while, a time. I come from a musical family.
Okay.
My father, he used to play in a samba school in Brazil, in São Paulo. He was not like a professional musician. He was an amateur musician. And he still plays nowadays, like at home. When we have parties at home, and Brazilian people love party
And food.
and food and music.
Yeah.
So we always play together. So he plays percussion.
Okay.
Right. But from my mom's side, so my mom's uncle, he used to play accordion.
Okay.
There was also clarinet players, guitar players. I haven't actually met them because they passed away before I came into this world. Or actually, some of them, they passed away after I was born, but I didn't. I can't
Very
remember
young
it.
age. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, and they would play, choros and all sorts of music on the weekend.
Yeah. So you were born into it.
Was born into it, yeah. And my mom's oldest brother was a really great pandero player. Pandero, this is
Frame drum.
frame drum from Brazil.
Tambourine. Can we say tambourine?
It's tambourine for in English, and but the technique is completely different from the tambourine. And the youngest brother of my mom is also an artist. He plays guitar, he writes music, and so on. So I was born into that. From a very young age, I was there playing music with my cousin. We would actually, mime instruments. We didn't have instruments, but we would get, air guitar or broom, with the broom and mime and, boxes, cardboard boxes, and then drum on those. And it was beautiful. And we were actually drumming on rock and roll, like AC/DC, Led Zeppelin and so on. So I grew up with it, but it was when I was traveling with my parents to the countryside of Brazil, I heard a samba school playing. It was carnival time.
Remember in which state? Or
it was in São Paulo, and the city was called Amparo, which is where my father was born.
Okay.
And I heard it, and I heard a drum. I remember to this day, it's a drum called repinique, which is the lead drum of the samba school. My spine went like, I could feel it in my spine. To this day, I remember that. And I knew there was something there. And since then, I had some friends that were playing music in the street where my parents used to live. They went to music lessons. I would go with them. I would be there. And
always percussion or whatever?
Always percussion. Actually, good question. I played harmonica.
Mouth harmonica?
That's right. Harmonica before. I wanted to play saxophone.
Okay.
But saxophone was a bit pricey at that time, and I was
still
like,
today.
still today.
Harmonica. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, harmonica, and I loved blues.
Okay.
Right. So started playing harmonica. I would go to school playing it and come back playing it. Yes,
very pocketable.
Absolutely. The dogs, they didn't like it very much, right? And there is a piece.
Just to get a picture, how old were you at this time when the harmonica came about?
Around 15.
15, okay.
Yeah. Maybe a bit later, actually. So. Because before I started playing drum kits.
Okay.
And the drum kit, I went to a party and there was a band, live band playing. And they were playing Rolling Stones, Satisfaction. And I heard
not the most elaborate drumming, but
and I heard that drumming. I heard the bass drum, the kick, and it went straight into my stomach.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to do that. That's and there was
not cheap. Again,
not cheap again.
Your parents, come on.
My parents, were like
drum kit,
Yeah. But so there was the second moment that the sound went like calling, and I spoke to the drummer, to that drummer, and I asked him if he had a drum kit to sell, and he did.
Wow.
Okay. And I paid it in installments. I used to work it already, it was
nice guy.
It's an amazing guy. We are friends until today. He still lives in my hometown.
Yeah.
And I started playing and learning and taking lessons. And I had my own band, which was called Sonotri at the time. Okay. We had a few songs, and anyway, then after that, I started learning. I changed it to percussion because I went into theater.
Okay.
Because
through high school?
Through high school. Well, I finished high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I finished high school.
And then?
While finishing high school, I was playing drum kit, rock and roll, and so on. After that, in Brazil, to go to a university is really, especially the top universities, is really expensive.
Yeah.
So the Brazilian system is designed to keep most of the population, especially the ones who are not part of the middle class and upper class, to keep them down or off higher education. So I couldn't really go to a top university. And then the state universities, which are the top ones, you have to have gone to a very, very good high school to get into those.
Yeah.
So you understand? It's a catch.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, you can't go to a top
Yeah.
state university. And if you don't go to a top state, to a top high school,
you don't have any chances to get to the
yeah, well, yeah.
So how was your story? Because I know that you went to a pretty cool
I was
university.
very, very lucky. Then I went studying theater, drama. And in drama, percussion is much more used than drum kit in the theater at that time.
More flexible.
Yeah, sound effects and so on. So that's my story with the percussion.
Okay.
But I met
So you went to drama school,
yeah,
which is university.
It wasn't a university.
It's under.
Yeah, it was under. Was a school called Scuola Livre di Teatro. So
open school of theater.
That's right.
And you go to become an actor.
That's right.
But then you go like, guys, you do the acting, I'll do the percussions. How does that work?
Well, I actually worked as an actor as well, but I was mostly in the music. In the music of it, and in the sound effects and so on.
Yeah,
and after that, but meanwhile doing that, I went also to study music in a private school, not a high school, just a private school.
Yeah.
Where I was learning piano.
Like an academy, conservatory kind of.
Conservatory. Well, I don't want to call conservatory because the school was actually a popular music school called Usina Brasil.
Okay.
Really great school with a fantastic teacher called Célia Matoso, who is like my second mother. So it's like, so she taught me how to play piano. And there I also met a great teacher called Orlando. And he taught me harmony. Really fantastic. And from there on, he was the one saying to me, Adriano, go and apply to study percussion at a university level.
Okay.
That's when I went and applied to study at...
So there was this gap between high school and university that most kids don't have. But you were earning your skills, and then this teacher said, you have the skills, just apply. Cool.
Absolutely, yeah. And then I applied for it. It was a top university.
Yeah.
I studied hard throughout high school, even though I went to a state high school. Actually, sorry, no. I went through a private high school, and I was studying it in the evenings and working during the day, so I could fund
that's why you
my own studies.
Yeah. So you applied to Unicamp? No,
UNESP.
UNESP.
Yeah.
Which translates as
University of the State of São Paulo. Yeah. So then I managed to go through the exams and finally start studying at the university.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. It was really great. Though the music I studied at the university was classical music, completely like nothing to do with Brazilian popular music.
Okay. I wasn't under the impression that you took folk.
There was no folk.
That's why I said Unicamp. Okay.
Yes, there was no folk. Even at that time, I think at Unicamp, maybe you could study popular music, but like piano only, maybe, or guitar.
Okay, like they opened the door to jazz.
Yeah.
And because bossa and jazz is such a big thing in Brazil, then popular music
That's right.
starts to open up.
Yeah.
When was this? The year, more or less?
I started UNESP in 1996.
Okay. Yeah.
So
You don't look a year after over 25. Actually. So I was going like 90,
very kind.
95. How did you study 95 in university? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like 4 years of full-on, like,
Yeah.
really hardcore studying.
Yes. Classical. Oh, so classical percussion.
Classical percussion. Yes, yes,
In the tambourine, like
yes.
that? Not.
No. Timpanis and
Yeah, yeah, cool.
marimba and, snare drum. and-
How do you? I mean, stupid question, but let's go. How do you cope with that? You just said, "This is my opportunity. This is." I'm not gonna spoil the opportunity to study at an university,
Well,
and you just drank it.
absolutely.
Is it that the way that you took it?
Absolutely. There was no other options
Yeah.
to study at a university level in Brazil at that time.
Yeah.
One more aspect of the Brazilian system, for instance, is that popular music, they don't make it available in university.
Yeah.
Now it's changing.
Yeah.
Now you can do a few things already. Yes, but at that time, it was not possible.
Yeah,
at
96.
all,
Yeah, sure.
So,
That's
but
still not possible for most countries. We forget about that.
absolutely,
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
The folk department and global music department here is. That's why people from all over the world
come here.
because-
Absolutely. And in Brazil, I have a friend who is the teacher of one of the first bachelor degrees in percussion, in Brazilian percussion.
Yeah.
Like is really recent.
Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, it's music. I was studying
Yeah,
music
sure.
with great teachers,
Musicians.
great musicians. Was a percussion group called Piap, which recorded albums, toured throughout Brazil.
Yeah.
I learned so much. It opened my ears to sound. It's fantastic. I didn't know. It's like you asked the right question. I think, how did you cope? I had to dive in,
Yeah.
and it was like 8-10 hours a day there.
And swim.
And swim and make sure you swim. Yes,
Yeah.
because that was the way.
96. So 98, 99.
99 I finished, and then 2000.
With a 5-degree diploma, which is not a master's. At the
No.
time, we didn't even call it a master's.
No.
Yeah, degrees were super long. Yeah, everywhere. Yeah. They're still
Yeah.
like that in some places.
Yeah. And then in 2000 I moved to London.
Okay.
So, and I was there for about 18 years.
Okay.
And that's where I did my master's degree at the
Which would be a second master's nowadays.
yeah.
Yeah.
The SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. So I did a master's degree there in performance, in music, in performance. That was really fantastic. But just before the degree, something really, really, really important happened, which was a trip. I traveled to find my own roots.
Okay.
And there was a dream I always had. Where do I come from?
Okay.
How is it there?
Is it a question that kind of burns inside many Brazilians, regardless of ethnicity? Do you think it's a thing from the New World and everything?
I can't answer that question, but I know, at least for most Afro-Brazilians, that there is this
click.
Africa.
Okay.
What? How is it? Because the information, especially at that time, that arrived in Brazil was filtered.
Okay.
Through Europe and through America, right? So everything we got was coming via America and via Europe. So it's like, what is it? And I then went to Nigeria, where my ancestors come from. But then later I found out also my ancestors come from Angola as well. And that was a life-changing experience. And I went to Benin Republic as well, and I was somebody else after
Okay.
that. Yeah, and that's when also I changed my name.
Okay.
So my birth name was a colonial name, Adriano Silva Pinto.
Yeah.
So Silva Pinto is not the name. The surnames, they are not what my parents chose to give me, but
Okay.
they are the surname of whoever were the slave owners who bought
It
my
was the name of the
ancestors.
family that owned the slaves.
That's right. And when I arrived in Nigeria, that came very clear that that surname didn't belong to me.
Yeah.
And I changed it. The family I stayed with gave me the name Adewale.
Uh-huh.
Adewale is a Yoruba word that means royal child that came back home.
Okay.
And I realized that, they took away my name. They didn't give a name. They didn't give a name that is from where I actually come from, and also they didn't give a name of where they took me to, which is Brazil, which is the indigenous people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the indigenous people speak Tupi-Guarani
Yeah.
in Brazil. And then Itaúna, that's my other surname that I adopted it
Okay.
myself. So Itaúna means black rock.
Okay.
So Adriano,
In which language?
in Tupi-Guarani.
Okay.
So Adriano Adewale Itaúna.
Okay.
This is
So you had, in a sense, you coined in your own name an experience that was life-changing, and there is a before and after.
That's right. And Adriano, my parents chose it.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But it also acknowledges that, it's an Italian name. And actually, I had a great grandmother who was Italian.
That's what I was thinking, because when you say that it wasn't your parents that gave you the name, actually it was, but the family name that your family carries doesn't belong to that ancestry.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Because some people listening, it might seem like there was slavery in your parents' lifetime in Brazil, and there wasn't.
There was not.
Yeah,
But-
actually, Brazil was the first. It's claimed as being the first country in the world to abolish.
No.
Yeah,
The opposite.
the opposite.
Was the last.
Okay,
Yes, it was the last. And in fact,
that's
1888.
so before the United States, probably, no? Are you sure of that?
I am absolutely sure
okay.
that Brazil was the last country to abolish slavery. Very shameful and sad to say that. And even actually to the point to say that in terms of racism, Brazil is the worst country in the world. And this is even worse than America.
Yeah.
It is. That's for sure. And actually, but my parents didn't have a choice but giving me the Silva Pinto because
it was the
it was.
yeah.
That's why I say that they didn't give it to me. It was
willingly.
given to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
So that was the story there, and then I finished my master's course, and I started, collaborating with many musicians in London from different parts of the world, many musicians from Africa, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, for Cameroon, many musicians, Senegal, and I started having also my own quartet, started writing music. We recorded a couple of albums. We toured with the albums. It was the quartet was called Adriano Adewale Group, with actually Nathan, Ricky Thompson, with Kajali Kuyate, and with Marcelo Andrade.
Okay.
And I was collaborating with many people
Through those 18 years that you were in London.
Yeah, and moved on to work with. I like collaborating. The nature of percussion is an instrument that you also collaborate. Yes, you can play solo,
Yeah.
but you collaborate a lot.
Yeah.
It is fascinating how you can collaborate, and it's very versatile. And also, I like being able to bridge worlds. So I was collaborating with jazz musicians. I was collaborating with folk musicians, also with classical musicians. Working with orchestras, working with big bands. In London, for that reason, is fascinating place.
Cosmopolitan.
You can do so much, and open-minded. You find people open-minded,
And how? So, it's 18 years is a lot, right? So you were creating roots for yourself in the UK. So when does the Finnish adventure come about? So it's like 1 year ago? No, more? When did you come to Finland?
2018. Yeah. I think, family, have two children. And I think there was an opportunity here at the Global Music course. I had already been coming here a few times to teach.
Yeah.
And it felt right to
Felt natural.
Felt natural actually to move over, being here, being part of this really wonderful community, and also it is this philosophy of global music, right? I felt like this actually all the time, I don't see myself as a jazz musician, as a folk musician, as a classical musician. Although, I have been on those worlds.
Those fields.
Yeah. But I am in the middle there. I am like, communicating. I love improvisation, but I love tradition.
Yeah.
I love classical music as well. So, it's in the middle there, and this is what it strives for, I think.
Have you ever found? Do you have experience, or do you know of other communities that are working like the global music department here in Sibelius? I don't know much about it worldwide, so I don't know. It seems like, we were discussing that a folk degree is not something that you find in every country.
No.
And what about this global music? But the same, or
it is
pretty much the same, or even more rare?
Even rarer, I would say. Yes. Because I think what you have here, you're not trying to create specialists to educate specialists on any particular genre of music, but you are actually nurturing an environment where people can find their own artistic voice, regardless of whatever tradition they are coming from, or whatever tradition they want to research into. So it's giving them space for them to find their own voice, their own artistic voice.
Fostering.
Yes, absolutely. So, and this is really wonderful. I find it really wonderful.
Yeah.
Of course, it's absolutely fine if you want to become an expert of a particular tradition. Yes, but I personally, artists that I love are artists that have something unique, even if they are very specific within a genre of music, but they have something unique to give within that. But I also think that it is possible that you are not, necessarily within a specific music genre, and that you come up with something new, yours, and that it communicates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while here, you took upon yourself to do a doctoral program as well. Tell me a little bit about it. I know that it has to do with a very special Brazilian percussion.
Yes. Yeah.
Called Berimbau. And that people that are not into the music traditions, especially the, can we say folk music? I was wanting to create a little, because we are from time to time, me and you, and I know this for a fact, we will say popular music.
Yes.
Because popular comes from the Latin populus, that means folk. So we would say folk music and popular music, and for us it's more or less the same. But popular music in English is a term that has to do with the masses and to the mainstream, and it's music for the masses, pop music, like a subgenre of popular music. So whenever we say popular music, we kind of mean folk music, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's why I was asking, can I call berimbau a folk instrument? Yeah.
Right. This is a delicate one.
Yeah.
Delicate one, because actually when I said yes, but I should rethink about it. Because when you say pop, does it equal folk? Actually, in Brazil, when you talk about popular music, you're not necessarily talking about folk music.
You're not necessarily talking about traditional music. Okay.
No, not at all.
So it's subtle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know really how to put it, but there are some people who differentiate folk music to traditional music.
Yeah. I would differentiate the three, but I think it has to do also because the literature, for example, that we have in Portugal in the 60s, they would call it popular music. Now I'm not even sure if they would say popular traditional music, but let's open this up and take it with a grain of salt. And I was going to comment that for those that are not so inclined or so knowledgeable about what do I call it? About Brazilian music, let's put it that way. They will recognize berimbau from capoeira.
Yes.
A mix between a dance and a martial art that came with people from Africa and then actually developed as a tradition in the slaves of Brazil.
Sure.
And so you are taking that instrument that has several contexts where it appears, and so you're taking that instrument. Can we tell us a little bit about the berimbau?
Yeah. Berimbau is a mesmerizing instrument, as a musical bowl, one string, one gourd. You play in Brazil with one stick, and then with a shaker, and then you hold with your left hand, and you use a stone or a metal coin to change the pitch of the string, and it can go a semitone higher. Some people can go the whole tone and as well, but and is, as you said, played mostly for capoeira traditionally. But then some musicians have taken it into different contexts. A master player of this instrument is Naná Vasconcelos, who lived in America for 30 years. He collaborated with, Pat Metheny. Naná Vasconcelos it's one of the gods of percussion, and for sure of berimbau. And I've been fascinated with he could express through the berimbau, right? There is also a very famous song in Brazil called Berimbau, 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 Berimbau. It's many people play it. A great version by Baden-Powell, who was a great guitarist. Baden-Powell plays it. Now, the reason I am interested is because how come an instrument, one string, shaker, stone, and you can. No, I will rephrase this. Yeah, I should rephrase this. Now, I am interested in how we can communicate through music,
Okay.
but using very not as much information.
Narrowed.
Yeah, it's like, what do we need to communicate? What do I need to touch you? What do I need to express my ideas
Yeah.
to you? Can I do it with very minimum? Can I do it with finger clicks?
Yeah.
Can I do it with the sound of the leaves only? And I've become fascinated by that because I had an experience with one piece I wrote. It was called Forest, which portrays the sound of the forest, and then there is a storm. At the end of the storm, you can hear only the drops.
Okay.
And every time I played this, the most powerful moment of the concert was the sound of the drops.
Yeah.
People. And I was shocked. I was like, how come?
After all of this, people are mesmerized with the ending. Interesting.
You understand?
Interesting. Yeah.
Like,
Like you have put people in the mindset where they actually started listening. Yeah. Perhaps.
maybe,
Yeah.
and so, but then it's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So then, Berimbau, it is potentially limited, or
Yeah. That's why I said narrow, because limited always puts us into trouble. But
absolutely.
narrow, let's say narrow to some extent.
Yeah. You don't have like, an octave or 2 or 3 or 4.
That's a luxury.
Yeah,
One
that's
octave, it's a luxury. Even bagpipes have one octave.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so what do you do?
Yeah.
What is it? How can you? And yet, if you listen to, for example, Nana, you are like, you're transported. It transforms yourself when you listen to Nana. And might be a personal opinion, but I've seen many people talking about what he has done with the Berimbau. So the Berimbau then, in this case, is being like a laboratorial tool for me to explore this phenomenon. Yeah, of playing with not as many tools, expressing, communicating. Yeah. And then it's questioning. If music, if you think that music is a medium to allow communication, to allow feelings to be expressed, ideas to be expressed, and if you can express ideas, feelings, and if you can communicate to a really high level, if you really can touch people with, for instance, a Berimbau, or with very minimal amount of tools, then
why all the fuss? When you have all the tools at our disposal, why sometimes we are unable to do so? Yeah. For example, that could be one of many questions.
Yes. And why are we mesmerized? Why do we need? It seems it seems sometimes that we are we are made to believe that more is more.
Yeah. Less is more.
And not necessarily, and also different cultures express themselves within different ways. So sometimes, you will see people performing different instruments, different kinds of music, and they might be using 5 notes.
Yeah.
But the whole nation understands, feels what is going on. and then you go to another culture where you can see a group of 10 people performing instruments and playing, and the whole nation understands everything. The whole thing happens in the same way.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you see people judging it. Well, that instrument that is only able to play 5 notes is actually not as good, or not as developed as the other one that can play a whole scale of 7, 12 notes, or quantifying it like this.
I had that conversation many times, or non-conversation. I was listening to you and thinking about food as strangely as it might seem, because sometimes to make a point, I would say it's sushi. And that's why I was thinking about food, because you can put only so many elements or ingredients until the whole thing starts to taste as nothing, because there's so much thing going on and if you think about the world, everyone, some ingredients are pretty much universal. For example, bread is pretty much universal. And how many kinds of bread can you make, and how that. So, it's just food for thought. I was just uniting dots, and I was listening to you, and all these images were coming to mind that you can have the same instrument with completely different expressions. You can have different instruments that are pretty much about the same culture, because sometimes cultures travel.
Sure.
And when they arrive at a place, there's different instruments there. I'm thinking about the cavaquinho. That goes from Portugal to the Portuguese islands, from the Portuguese islands to Cabo Verde, to Brazil, and to Hawaii. And look what the people from Cabo Verde and the Brazilians and the Hawaiians made with it. It's beautiful. It's incredible. It's extraordinary. And when you think about level, so the Portuguese use it as a rhythm instrument with melody, and play it with this rasgado technique, which they triple it. Taca, taca, taca. And then Chorinho in Brazil took it to a completely other level. And some of us might be inclined to put these different ways of interpreting the cavaquinho and say that, well, the Brazilians outperformed the other cultures. It's not about that. It's just about different flavors, and cooking it differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe on that. And who, like, talking about, sometimes I think, who is, we talk about this concept of virtuoso, virtuosism, all right? Who is virtuoso? What is virtuosism? Is the one who can communicate the same thing with very little tools?
Probably not. For the most, or does even communicate come into question? Because I was even going further a little bit than, or making it even worse. When we say virtuoso, are we even speaking about communicating anything?
Then
Because I don't know. It's just, I'm an idiot, but that's not what comes to mind when I think virtuoso.
Right.
I think perform. I in my mind, it's performance in the sense that you speak about a car or about an athlete. Sheer performance. In that sense of performance, right? In that sense of the word, that original, not in the sense of concert.
Expressing, not in the sense of expression yourself.
No. I don't think so, but maybe it means different things to different people. But the mainstream concept nowadays comes to many, I don't know, maybe notes per second or
It's a question, isn't it? Yeah. Because you if you are talking about if music is a means of communication,
how many words per second doesn't communicate anything? Silence might communicate a lot in certain
you understand.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, silence speaks volumes, man. Silence speaks volumes.
Yes, I was when I came across John Cage, Stockhausen, I was like, whoa.
What is this about?
Yes. What
Yeah.
is this about?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on here? And it's been silence. It's like genius.
Yeah.
Still today. But then what happened is when I was in Nigeria, I went and saw a group of young people performing on a drum kit. And the tuning of the drum kit, cymbals and reminded me of some pieces that the classical contemporary composers, they were asking for that sound.
Yeah. And they had it just there. Yeah. Interesting. Who is the virtuoso then? Yeah, for sure.
I think, you know, when I start to think about those things, about tunings, different ways of tuning, different ways of interpreting, understanding tuning.
Tuning and temperament, yeah. Well, temperament is already tempering the fifths. That's already you know.
It is, I think, you know, perhaps for far too long we have been taken into a direction where we are using one particular type of culture to as the center, and everything else is compared in relation to that culture.
And it didn't start yesterday.
It
started at least 300 to 400 years. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
And then now, I think it's crucial. Well, it has been happening already. You know, you talking about so many people who have been talking, who have been writing about it. But you know, it's important that now we have so much access to different cultures and so on, that we understand that it is not like that. We are missing out.
Sure.
Think like that.
And I was thinking about what you're saying, and I was thinking about what I said, and actually that's not even the whole story, because of course there's a macro way of looking at it that could be like even the map makers would put their own town or their own country in the center of the map and start making the map around. I mean, that's understandable. I mean, you know, if the Tupi were making maps, maybe they would put their nation in the center of the map, and no, that's not necessarily bad. But we have to understand that there's that kind of egocentric perspective where when you see the next. So that's the macro. That's why I said 300 years or 400 years, or maybe more. We have that thing that when we do the travel and when we do arrive, we tell the story about what we see through our eyes, and then we go back and we tell the story, and when we tell the story and we tell it through our eyes, we are observing the world through our lens and through our tools, or even measuring tools sometimes, right? So that's the macro. But then I was thinking, wait, but there is a kind of cannibalism even within Europe and within our own countries, from village to village. For, you know, so sometimes it's not even someone that came from the outside. Sometimes ideas come from the outside. You know, because again, there are even in Europe, which is extremely rich per square kilometer. You know, I mean, the EU is the size of the United States, and I mean, the amount of traditions and cultures and flavors by square kilometer is incredible. And even then, we were able to suppress our own identity and our own cultures and our own languages. You know, France had a number of languages. Now it has an hegemony of French and Spain. And, so this is an issue,
I think
which might be sometimes very ideological and very rational, and sometimes we destroy our own culture for what, for our own folk culture.
I think those things, they happen naturally as well. They evolve into something else. Traditions, they do transform. As you said, ideas come in and you start assimilating, changing and
but
so on.
My sense was what I meant was that sometimes there's an honest ideal that whatever we are bringing is better. And nowadays, when we stop, take a step back, and we see that actually what came wasn't better in any sense of the word, in any analytical sense. It wasn't richer. It wasn't, that's what you mean, like, because you have 2 octaves doesn't make that better. For example, it's, again, in your instrument, it might be a thing. In the bagpipes, more or less, it's not extremely well established, but we know more or less that the decadence of bagpipes came with the accordion. So the accordion arrives and you go like, wow, that's just better. And it's understandable because in some degree, for certain social gatherings, I mean, come on, shut the bagpipe, because this guy has the whole orchestra in his hands, and he has a wider range, and he can do accompaniment and so on. So the accordion just took, the folk world by storm.
I don't think so.
Yeah?
I don't think so. Because I think, well, you said in certain contexts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I hate the accordion.
I
I'm kidding. I keep to the bagpipe.
In certain contexts, yes, absolutely. You would prefer the accordion to the bagpipes, but in another context, you would prefer the bagpipes. The accordion would go like, please stop it. It's not working. You understand?
Sure.
That's when because I think we can't be the other.
Yeah.
It's about I can't turn up and say, guys, today I'm gonna be Gonçalo.
Yeah, sure.
I can study my whole life to be you.
Yeah.
And yet I will be copying. And then what?
Yeah.
I can't do that. It's essential.
That has very deep implications, what you're saying.
What do you mean?
No. I was thinking about the classical world, to be quite honest. When I said that it has very profound implications, I have to be honest, I was thinking about the classical world. And in finding your own voice, and in studying your life to be Gonçalo, and you simply can't. You understand what you just said? I can study my own life to become Gonçalo, and in the end I'll just be a shadow of Gonçalo. Yeah. So how do you think that translates to music practice as a whole? How would you translate it? That's why I said that I was thinking about the classical world. Because it's so demanding, I think. It's extremely demanding on the performers. It's a whole life studying. And there's ideals of what should be your level in this point of your progression. How does that?
How
do you not become Gonçalo when there's so well established Gonçalos in your mind and in your evolution as a performer?
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be interesting to speak to someone who is actually within that world should But I do believe that you hear some performers in classical music, and you do you do hear their personality coming through.
Yeah.
I trust
Yeah,
that.
sure,
I've
for sure.
seen it.
sure.
And it's fascinating. In the same way, like in other genres of music as well, is you will have people miming, copying. I
Yeah.
don't think it's restricted to
Yeah.
classical at
No, for
all.
sure. And I don't even think that's a bad thing. I mean, to a degree.
Right.
At least for my knowledge in other arts,
Sure.
it's taken as a very needed stepping stone. You know, copying is a very needed stepping stone to reach something that is yours.
You
Yeah.
learn with it.
Yeah.
You learn with tradition, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's
Sure,
that's
sure,
what.
sure.
Yeah,
sure.
we do traditional music. We keep,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it keeps evolving from.
So maybe I sidetrack you. So what was your point when you said I can study my own life to become Gonçalo, and I will never be able to do it? So it had to be. I'm sure it had to be your own voice. Yeah.
Because of the whole thing in terms of the accordion and the bagpipes. When one say, okay, forget the bagpipes, now this is the accordion. Wait, you can't do what the bagpipes do.
No.
You can do it different.
Yeah.
But you can't be,
Yeah.
you can't, you understand? And it's like, oh, hey, okay, now, how can I say? Now we have, you spoke about food before.
Yeah.
What's an example? Right, in Brazil, staple food is rice and beans,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Suddenly comes pasta, right?
Yeah, sure. And it did.
It did.
It did.
Hey, pasta, guys!
But that's
yeah.
Brazil is a very interesting example because it seems like everything that arrived stayed parallel to whatever was there before. You kept the rice and beans, and now you have the pasta, which is great. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it has a place in there. It's like Sunday lunchtime. It's like pasta,
Yeah.
Hey, pasta time. Yes, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. It's beautiful. But it can't replace. It's two different things that come.
Yeah.
Let's find a way to coexist together. I went to a music education conference here, actually, maybe 3 years ago. I forgot the name of the professor, but he was talking about that. All the music genres are like an ecosystem. That, well, not that they are, but they
Behave.
it would be great if they could be seen as an ecosystem. So one is depending on the other. They all need to be there in the same level to exist, to coexist. So, and in fact, when you look at it, it's fascinating, isn't it? You see how different genres of music are borrowing from one another. You see lots of great classical music composers going to folk.
Yeah.
Jazz has gone into classical, and it's all boring. It's all like coexisting. People are, you said. So I think it's about balance, acceptance, tolerance, understanding of the others, and embracing differences. You understand? That's what I think it's about. Without this worry of what is better, or this, or that, or that.
Yeah.
But what do you have to say to me? How are you saying it? Wow, fantastic, great. And
How do we communicate?
And we move on.
And we did communicate, and I'm so thankful that you were able to sit for 1 hour with me and be so patient and tell us all your story.
No,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Gonçalo. That's really great. It's wonderful to have this space, to create this opportunity to informally talk about those.
And very seriously, although we laughed a lot.
Yes, absolutely. But really serious subjects and important to be spoken about
and shared.
Yeah, different viewpoints and forms of understanding. Thank you. Obrigado.
Obrigado, Adriano. Até a próxima.
Até a próxima. You might as well get a machine, right?
They got the machine already.
Yeah.
Didn't you get the memo?
No, but it's quite formal here, right?
No.
With the socks, nah, it won't work.